What's up, guys, and welcome back to an Operation Meteor meta update. Sorry, I've been gone for most of the week. I've been sick in bed for pretty much the majority of it, and barely got around to getting up and going pretty much today. So, put in some work, got some information going, populated, thanks to a few folks who contributed, such as a person named Jared from Cardiff in the UK. They provided me some more information that we'll use today to help see how things are going on their neck of the woods compared to the American and just overall general. I did want to put out one thing though, because I didn't have a chance to do Operation Meteor Report because I would have had to do it from my own bed, which I don't think anyone wanted to watch. The last chance qualifier for Bandai Card Game Fest in Vegas. It's going to take place November 30th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're interested in trying to play the last chance qualifier to get into the regional qualifiers championships, which is the next day, and you haven't got an invite for that, this is your last chance to do so. Otherwise, I mean, it's not a loss over at Bandai Card Game Fest Toy and Expo because you'll have a chance to hopefully play the new Gundam Assemble game. There are side events that are mimic the latest new type challenge to get pricing from there. And, you know, I'm not entirely sure what else they have. They haven't announced all that yet. So, with that being said, you might notice that there might be a couple of hard cuts here and there. My voice still hasn't come back all the way, so bear with me. I'm going to try to get us through this as kind of quickly as possible for the sake of my own voice and for the sake of editing. So what we're going to do first is that someone had asked, hey, Sal, can you take a minute and take us through each of the color combinations so we have an idea what the decks look like? And that thought didn't occur to me that there might be some first-time TCG players or folks who are looking to play this game at a higher standard for the first time, and they have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about, oh yeah, the blue-white deck. What's in it? Same thing with green-red. Is that just clan? Is that... So... I will take a few minutes. I'm going to put some sections in the description so you already know what you're looking for. You can just move on to the hard data points and go on from there. So let's take a look here. So starting with green-white. So you're going to see this with a lot of the white decks is that they're going to come with what people have been calling a blocker package. It means Wart, Lifrith, and Rick Diaz are all going to be in the deck. The rest of the stuff is optional. What makes this deck a little bit more scary and dangerous for the unknowing is that we've got the Shenlong Gundam, which destroys lower blockers like our blocker package. It does breach damage. Wing Gundam swings at a target and causes breach damage. And then Wing Zero is our big finisher that just lays waste to everything on the board that deals 3 damage to everything including your side. Pretty much the standard. You might see a few folks playing with a Kira Yamato pilot in a couple spots. You might see a Death Sight instead of a Shenlong, but that's pretty much the brick and mortar of the deck. Blue Purple. This became pretty popular as soon as the Iron Bloom decks came out. I've been toying with it. Nothing too crazy about this deck. The big thing is that it's going to go hard and fast with playing a lot of the turn 1 units like Jim Gray's custom, but later on turns 3 and 4, or actually more on 4 and 5, you're going to start seeing the Gundam RX-78 that's going to come in, and with the Amuro Ray, that's going to tap down blockers or other targets that they need to get rid of. The Gushin Rabake provides some good blocking at the end of the game, and then you have Fatal Strikes that get rid of pretty much any lower units. So, pretty popular. It's been gaining a lot of momentum, as you'll see as we move through. Blue-white. This color combination has a lot of different ones. There's this version called Freedom Blockers. Essentially, the whole point is that you can set up with your standard blocker package. You hold off the enemy, tap down things with the RX-78, and then you swing in at the end of the game with your big units. Nothing too crazy. Amuro and Gundam are your mid-range cards. And Kira is just helps you finish the game off along with Solita and the aerial rebuild. You can play this without the Kira package and send summon Epion Zex and Tallgeese, and you can also take that out for Hyzak, the Psycho Gundam, and for Murasame as well, and that's also a popular blue-white. Blue-red. This keeps going yo-yoing. It was popular and then it wasn't, and then popular again. What ends up happening is that this deck relies on kind of starting a little slow, but then punishing your opponent by dealing indirect damage, or what they call pinging him, by using effects. This one isn't as common as I've seen with other ones, where they're playing more Cubile with all range attack, with Haman Karn. It's a little bit on the middle side of things, but still not bad. The whole point is to try to indirectly destroy your opponent's creatures without having to trade into them, which allows you to just hit shields and keep the momentum going in your favor. We're going to cruise and the Kshatriya, really big things of the deck, and then full frontal in the Sinanju. These are cards that come back into style just because of the high maneuver to get past blockers. Red-white. Again, another combination that was gaining a little popularity towards the end of set 1. Took a break because people weren't sure how to rebuild it within difficulties of set 2. And we're seeing it come back in a state like this, where we're getting more of the same, where we have a blocker package to survive. So that way we can start playing our Kshatriyas and our Cubiles, our Shinanjus with Haman, full frontal Marina, battle bases. Sometimes you'll see this with close combat to start just killing off people's cards before they have a chance to stabilize. And yeah, not too bad. I've played against this one quite a bit. Blue-green. This was the real boogie monster of set 2, just because of the fact that it was really hard to figure out how to play against this effectively. It still is. If you go first and you have a blocker that you can play in turn 2, you usually are in a good spot, and if they draw into a bad hand, I can go in your favor too. Big start with this deck is the Zaku here from S203. It gets +2, quickly cracks the opponent's EX base on turn 2, and then we start just going crazy from there by link pairing with Char. Turn 4, we have the RX-78, which keeps tapping down stuff. Korska base to play Tulgis and Leos just to keep the board saturated with your troops, so that way you can fish them up before they have a chance to play their bigger cards. Green-red. Now, this is a deck that I have seen people trying to get to work well, and when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's kind of bad. The whole interesting thing about this deck is that it's one of the decks that actually focuses on our trait. This time, it's the clan trait. Meaning that, for those not aware of this, is that clan trait procs on a few abilities. Like Shuji's has it if you have a clan unit at play, you do this effect. Machu, you have a clan card, you do a trade, then because of the trade. And same thing. So this is a lot of focus on ensuring that you have clan units out in play, so that way your other clan units benefit from it. The whole problem with this deck is that it doesn't have anything to play until turn 3. And when we're dealing with a lot of the rush decks, that can be a recipe for disaster, because since you don't have blockers, that means that you have to trade. And because you don't have anything to really link pair, or you on turn 3, then you're missing out on the swing. So, but because you arrive, it's not bad. A lot of great synergy. All of our card combinations should look like. Let's go over the data. So I've done 2 things different on the sheet. One is that I've added a cumulative calculation, meaning that I've taken all the numbers and I kept running with it. So on this sheet, I thought I had a grant. Let me grab this here real fast. And I'll show you how many decks I pulled. I have pulled 461 decks as of this video. So what that means is that at the end of each week, or sorry, each event, these numbers correspond with me adding decks to them. And as you can see, the result has shifted quite a bit. So whereas green-white started strong, along with all these guys, you see some dips. And yeah, it just kind of lies low. So when people say, well, green, white, and blue, purple are your most popular decks, yes, they are. We see them as our most used decks in the game, and Gundams make up 50% of what I have combined in this one spreadsheet. And that's not to say that, there's some other slouches in there. I mean, blue, white, and blue, purple make up a good healthy share of this here. And then when we look at the top 8, yeah, we're still looking at kind of the same type of dominance where everyone else was kind of suffering. And in terms of consistency, though, I mean, it's not bad. Green, white started off really strong, and then it's had its big moment. And then we kind of see people playing around some of those cards, finding ways to beat it. And over the last week or two, we've kind of started to see more and more people take advantage of it. Some other cards have done the same. Basically, this is why I kind of want more information to see if this is just more of a regional thing or not. But as we can tell, as an overarching theme, most of the decks that end up doing well again to the top 8 are fairly well represented. And then anything that's not a top 8 card doesn't really have a share in the pile at all. So really meaning that we only have about 6 or 7 combinations that are worth playing at a high-end event. So let's get back to just the weekly. And this is why I also believe doing just individuals by themselves can be helpful, because if there's the way that TCGs work is that you take the most consistent decks from set before it, and if there isn't a rotation, then that deck typically does well, and then people learn to play against those. And then that kind of shapes your meta a little bit, especially when we didn't have really anything that shaped it up a lot outside of an additional color. So that being said, green, white, and blue, green were our top colors that performed well, won tournaments, people keep playing them. And, now that we're kind of 6 weeks into the set, now actually, I think we're only a month into the set now, I'm thinking about it. Where we are right now is we kind of see a bit of a shakeup at some of these. So this was our new type challenge here at my home store. We had 16 people show up, and we actually had a pretty good, spread among decks. I mean, really, blue-green was the only thing that had more than 20% of the player base. So that was kind of nice. And we saw a pretty good representation overall for our top 8. And then, not too bad. Our store champ ran blue-red. I can runner-up with blue-white Epion. The guy who took second because of matchups, he was on red-white. So it was nice to see that. And then the fourth got blue-green. So we didn't have a single green-white, and I made it in mine. And the Cardiff one that I got, slightly different story. We end up getting 25% of the top of the meta being green-white this time, so far more participation, and they had 28 players, so they had 12 more than us. And we're kind of seeing things kind of skew. Now, the one thing I was kind of impressed with is that we didn't get the rest of the information here, so we still have like 5 decks, color combinations we don't know of. But even with that being said, we did see this being more of a typical meta breakdown. In terms of our top 8, same thing. We're seeing the same consistency in colors with, red, white does somewhat well, but blue, green, blue, white, and then of course green, white, where we didn't see anything else from other color combinations, and then green, white winning it. So pretty much more aligned to what we've seen everywhere else. And then finally, this is like the Seagull's Nest. Don't recall off the top of my head. I think this was in the 20s as well, worth of players. And we're seeing a bit of a same thing as we've seen in my meta, where it was only, 12% on the green-white combo, but we have a lot more on blue-purple. So a lot of people are trying to make this deck work. And then we've got quite a few on blue-white. And then, of course, red-white is making a surge. So out of that, though, top 8, no shocker here. Green-white, even though it's not the most representative, one of the more consistent decks that still wins, followed by are blue purple. I guess I keep I'm blocking them. So blue purple, and then yeah, kind of the same thing where we're just seeing the same old with that, but surprisingly, no blue green made its way into the top 8 at Eagles Nest this week. And then consistency's sake, we've got green white doing well, and then red white doing well. So what does that tell us as a player base? It means that green white is still the deck to beat outside of green blue. And that's a very hard matchup to win because you have to be able to deal with the Shenlong Gundam and figure out how to win the game before turn 8 before Wing 0 gets you. And that's a hard sell. I think I only got successes on that one when I can have the argument in play to where I can nullify breach, and then pray that I have Epion and Turbine went first, and I've done enough consistent damage to put them back on their back foot to where Wing 0 doesn't matter, because I have enough high enough units that survive the attack or don't even get hit with it. Okay. So let's take a look and see what our charts look like now. So got our deck count. Still seeing that the lion's shares of our decks look like 28% is on this, green white. Blue purple is 13, blue white is on 18, 5.6 is on blue red, 8.5 on red white, and then 18.9 is on blue green, and then everything else is kind of this mix right here. And yeah, most consistent, popular, and wins tournaments. Not too surprisingly, this kind of almost overlaps or won by double points. And why it by itself when it comes to efficiency versus the meta share, yeah. Good luck. It's really hard to get past that consistency. And then quadrants, yeah, I mean, same thing. Kind of want to join the last one, but yeah, we kind of look at the same thing where purple red is trying to be a thing along with blue red, and everyone else is doing okay, but green white's just that good. Hopefully GDO3 will come up with some new stuff to help us deal with that, but your guess is as good as mine. We'll probably have a couple more weeks of spoilers before let's see here, first cards drop the 16th of January, so we'll probably have the rest of the starter deck information out here within the next 2 weeks. And yeah, that's all I got, guys. Again, if you guys want to help with this project, I need a minimum 16 people. I need the amount of color combinations. I need the rankings. And yeah, and just send them to the email at the one below. And with that, I've got nothing else for you guys. That's just our meta report update. And we'll see if I can get some more. If not, we might be doing some other stuff on Fridays to kind of help polish people up a little bit. And with that, got nothing else. So this is Sal with Operation Meteor, signing out.